Hello, everyone. Welcome to an episode of Realistically. I haven't thought of the intro yet for Realistically, but I will soon. Hello, Petan Milo and Alex and RIP George Harrison. Nice to see you guys here. Before I get started, a special announcement. On January 24th, we will be doing a special show for the 100th anniversary of Lenin's, not death, but Lenin passing from the mortal world to the immortal world.
Yes. That will be fun. We'll have a good show there because
here's I have all the volumes of Remembering Lenin. So I'll pick out the funniest anecdotes from people who remember Lenin. My two favorite is where he is so this worker in St. Petersburg asks him a question about some sort of international trade deal. And then Lenin visits him in his house. And back then workers' houses were I don't know how to explain it. They were not even slums. They were worse than shanty towns. And it was rare for an educated person like Lenin to visit these, but he had no qualms about it. And then he brought him a book. But unfortunately the book was in German, and this worker said, well, I actually I can't read in German. So Lenin said, okay, let's read it in Russian. So he basically did a live reading for the next 2 hours and stopped to answer all the questions. And he was like, for me, that's what turned me into a social democrat. Back then, it was the Russian Social Democratic Party and Labor Party, because Lenin treated us like equals worthy of having intellectual discourse. And so that's one cute story. There's lots of this. So I have all the 8 volumes. So I'll find the best, funniest, the ones that make me laugh the hardest.
Yes.
And I'll share that with you. Time is to be determined, but we'll look out for tweets for the time. So today we have former SBU agent Vasilly Prozorov for the interview about. So about a year ago, or maybe 8 months ago, they were talking about how Russia was going to do a false flag in the Zaporizhia plant that they control. You don't need to do a false flag if you control all the entire plant and the entire, there's a river separating you from the Ukrainian troop. There's no reason. You control it. You're going to use it. So he talks about the real reason. So it's Westinghouse, and there's a lot of shady things going on, and we'll get to remember a lot of what Hillary Clinton did, how she promoted fracking in over 40 countries, etc. Unfortunately, so we got about half the interview. So this will be part 1. Next week will be part 2 with additional material.
Yeah. And was that, so this nuclear plant was the same one that from the beginning of the war, right?
Yeah.
They were in there, and they were trying to say that Russia was going to set off nuclear weapons and stuff like that.
Oh, they can't set off nuclear weapons because there are no nuclear weapons in the plant. They were going to create a second Chernobyl.
Oh, okay. All right. Okay.
And this radiation fumes was going to go all the way to God knows Turkey or whatnot.
Because they're trying to help the people that are in the area, but they're going to set off a Chernobyl. Yeah. Okay. That makes sense.
Well, they control the entire nuclear plant. Like nuclear plants are expensive. They provide a lot of energy. You can use it for so much. Like, why would you want to destroy your? And it was built by the Soviet Union, of course.
Yeah, definitely, definitely. So, yeah, so we're gonna that it's a short. It's actually transcribed. Esha did all the transcribing for it.
Because it's in Russian, so it'll be
So
subtitled.
translating. Yeah, so.
But if anyone wants to be a voice actor to give voiceovers for Russian subtitles, please volunteer.
Yeah, that would be good. And if you have an Irish accent. No, you have to speak Russian. No, what was it that you wanted?
Lennon spoke English with an Irish accent.
With an Irish accent, so
because his tutor was Irish.
Yes, so
he copied him.
You were always trying to get someone with an Irish accent to come on.
Yeah, I couldn't. If you have an Irish accent, come on.
So the price of plutonium went up.
Oh yeah, I wonder if this has any. Can you show that? I wonder if this has anything to do with Niger, because plutonium is another natural resource they have. Yeah. So when France was owning all the deposits in Niger, literally they were selling 50 cents per kilogram for uranium, and now Niger gets $250 per kilogram. So it's not even. And then they made Niger pay for their extortion. Oh my God. It's like makes me so mad.
Yeah, it's nuts. I mean, this world is just complete nuts.
Let's show the tweets we want to debunk.
Yeah. You want to do that one first? Okay.
Yeah.
I want to show one thing first because I do have it pulled up. The site that I typed out in the historically tweet for Ukraine leaks was wrong. But then when I tried to put it in there,
the site,
Twitter wouldn't let me do it. So let me just show you the screen of the site.
Yeah. UKR_ UKR- leaks.
Hold on. Chrome tab.
Hello, Norville Rogers.
Sometimes it doesn't show me when I want it to show me. Hold on 1 second. I'll get it.
Mm-hmm.
Good screen window. I don't know why.
While we're waiting, please hit like and also subscribe. Click on the bell and tweet it out for your friends.
Okay. Is this showing the right thing?
It's not showing anything.
Yeah. Why is this being so weird?
I don't know.
Oh, wait. Okay. Because it's okay. I know what's going on. Okay.
Okay.
It keeps wanting to show this screen and not this other screen. So I'm just going to take it down. Sorry, people. It's just being kind of funky.
Yeah, okay. It's UKR-leaks.com.
So this is the site here. So UKR-leaks.com. But for some reason,
let me see if I can share it.
Twitter.
I can share.
Put it in.
Can you see?
Oh, I didn't share it? I thought I shared it. No?
Oh, okay. Show my screen.
Oh, there you go. All right.
Okay. See, this is...
That's fine. I know what I did.
Whose screen are... Okay. Whose screen are you
showing?
I
made it so that when I show screen, it doesn't go automatically up, and I forgot that it will do that on the web pages too. So it was actually down in the box.
Okay. So this is UKR-leaks, and this is the person we are interviewing.
Yes. Okay, so let me get that on the screen. All right. So, I just wanted to show that. So then you want to hold on.
Do some tweets.
This
thank
one
you,
is
Milo. I'm glad you join us every Friday at this time unless we change our time.
Okay, this one is the TikTok. I'm going to play that.
Okay.
It's kind of a pain because now it makes me do twice.
No. This is it. Okay, so let me read what this person's saying. Yeah. This has me seeing red. He's right though. The U.S. government steals from the American worker and unlawfully gives it to Ukrainian oligarchs. They are laundering our tax dollars. It's our government stealing from us. This is 100% false. That is not how imperialism works. So the US government did a regime change so that they could get a comprador Ukrainian government that steals from the Ukrainian people and gives it to American oligarchs. So American taxpayers are not subsidizing Ukrainian oligarchs. Ukrainian grandmas with their pensions that they earned through hard work fighting off Nazis are subsidizing corporations like Westinghouse.
Yes.
So right after Maidan, they had to do, the US government forced them to sign an IMF loan. And in this IMF loan, basically the conditions was like I tweeted this out about a year ago. Literally, it's like ghoulish things like the pensions are too high. So they lowered the pensions. They removed the price control on food so they couldn't afford food. They raised the price of basically heat by 10 times. So if it used to be $10, it's now $100. And so people who couldn't afford heat and things like that after Maidan. And so it is definitely, so this person is completely wrong. The way the IMF works and they literally made them sign it about 2 weeks after Maidan is that, I mean, I'm going to quote John Pilger on this. Contrary to the popular myth in the West, it is the poor of the world that funds the rich and not the other way around. And so it works the same way with countries. Poor countries fund rich countries and not the other way around.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so she's completely wrong.
Do you want me to play the video is the guy. Okay.
Yeah, so he's right though.
Yeah, he's right on that point, but
Ukraine does not steal any money from American taxpayers. If you compare the overall budget, even just the defense spending of the United States and the sum of money allocated to Ukraine, it's, to say the least, a very little part of the overall defense spending.
He's right about this too.
A vast amount of this money stays in the United States because it's invested in the production of weapons that goes then to Ukraine, and it needs to be explained to American taxpayers that their communities benefit from it. They
in some ways
are created. Everyone should understand one simple fact: whatever the price of supporting Ukraine today is, the price of fixing the mess in the world, if Ukraine loses, will be much, much higher.
Okay, there will be no mess in the world if Ukraine loses. The world would be a much better place without having Nazi battalions like Azov terrorizing everyone. Taxes. Okay, Texas doesn't fund the military. Texas, unless there's a state level, Texas, don't fund anything. The government prints money, and Texas forces people to use the money because at the end of the year they need to collect the money and pay their taxes, and that's why they accept tax as the money as transactions. So Texas don't, but monetary sovereignty is of course a spectrum, and so how much monetary sovereignty there is for a country depends on basically how much and the way they get rid of the monetary sovereignty is through the IMF, where the coupon that they need to pay back is through US dollars. Yeah. And so having said that, so not all countries are equally sovereign.
No, not at all. Not one bit. So
exactly.
Yeah, I just said it like, I mean, that whole thing, like it was coming from the taxpayers, is bullshit. But it's like, yeah, but Ukraine, it can go away.
Ukraine should never have existed. You know how everyone complains about alleged Russia's illegal war? No one complains about how the Soviet Union was broken up against the will of the people and Ukraine was illegally created.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, this is the whole thing. Like, people have to understand, like, people's will. It's like,
yeah.
if the people's will is getting hurt, then like you start talking to people, they're like, but not everybody would want it. And it's like, no.
About like you can look at the polls about you can look at the elections. There was a referendum about having the Soviet Union, and over it's like it was at like 90% in every republic voted to keep it. But then Yeltsin and the other two people, may they stay in hell, they illegally dissolved it, and then the US jumped on it, and then illegally dissolved it in the UN. It was it was the worst thing that happened to the world, because if the Soviet Union was around, they would not have been attacking Iraq. They wouldn't have been a war in Afghanistan. They would have been too afraid. They would not have destroyed Libya. Literally, the worst thing to happen in the world is the destruction. I mean, India, for everyone in every country was worse off. Workers in America were worse off because American oligarchs had no reason to give them the little trinkets. In terms of, that's why the minimum wage has not risen. While the Soviet Union was around, the minimum wage rose every single bloody year, and there was a social welfare system.
Yeah, and then like anti-communism was the goal, but it was anti-communism with like this bigger push on the Soviet part of it.
They were very afraid because, I mean, it's just because from the beginning, in a meeting with Wilson and Lansing and his cronies, they said, do you understand what this means? This is the equivalent of our plantation and words taking control of the kingdom.
Yeah.
And that's what they've always been afraid of.
Oh yeah. They just can't. They can't. I mean, look at that. Like, isn't like the UAE like saying, don't, like, please, we're trying to work on a peace with Yemen. Hey, Joe, don't go bomb them, and then they go and bomb them. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
So like that was for capital. That wasn't for peace in the Middle East. That wasn't for.
Well, today, Joe Biden asked whether it's successful in overthrowing the Houthis or the Ansar Allah army. And he said, well, whether it works against the Houthis is a question, but we will still keep doing it.
Yeah. Like he doesn't care. He doesn't care.
The fact that, he at least, if he was less senile, maybe he could have said something different.
Yeah.
Like put a positive spin on it or something, but it's like, what? And of course, in 2003, the Houthis stormed the parliament and asked for a fair election. And that's when the U.S. started bombing.
Yep, that's when. Yep.
In 2013, sorry, not 2003. Because
Iran runs Hamas and the Houthi.
Iran runs everything magically. With the Houthis, I don't know who's giving they can now manufacture. Obviously, now they can manufacture their own weapons, and they're selling weapons to other people. Yeah. But
they are.
Yeah.
Yep, they went into the manufacturing weapons.
Well, they learned. I guess they learned there was enough. Yemen was droned and bombed enough that there's enough leftovers that they could reverse engineer.
Yep. They were taking our weapons and reverse engineering them, and so yeah. They did what on a capitalism. You want this, them to go and do their own thing and make these weapons and stuff, but
like I said, there were enough unexploded bombs or missiles or whatever. Now they're making and with Israel, they had their first space drone that left the Earth's atmosphere. And they are stopping all Western ships from coming through the Red Sea and going around the long way around Africa.
But they're letting ships going to Egypt.
They're letting even ships from India. They're just not letting ships from countries that are Israel weapons. Basically, they're not letting Israeli and American ships and making them take the long way around.
Yes. So good. Haha.
And today, 2 British ships collided in the Red Sea out of panic.
Oh, really? I didn't know that. That's funny. That is funny.
Hold on. The Patan Milo said the U.S. can make however much money it wants because its debt is held in its own currency, so they can always pay it. Exactly. and that's why whenever they say rules-based international order, it's such a joke, because this rules-based international order allows the IMF and the World Bank. And today, when we watch the video, we'll see one of the most ridiculous World Bank projects in the Philippines, where they built a nuclear reactor on top of an active volcano.
Yeah. So the other tweet we wanted to show was your tweet.
Yeah.
With this.
Are you a racist party? Are you involved in a racist party?
No. We're not a racist country, Brian. We've never been a racist country. Our goal is to make sure that today is better than yesterday. Are we perfect? No. But our goal is to always make sure we try and be more perfect every day that we can. I know I faced racism when I was growing up, but I can tell you today is a lot better than it was then. Our goal is to lift up everybody, not go and divide people on race or gender or party or anything else. We've had enough of that in America. That's why I'm so passionate about doing this. I don't want my kids growing up where they're sitting there thinking that they're disadvantaged because of a color or a gender. I want them to know that if they work hard, they can do and be anything they want to be.
Yeah. Okay, so in that case, first of all, she admits that she faced racism in her youth. And second of all, why did Nimarata change her name to Nikki?
Yes, and it's funny because now that, like, I saw that in a trend in my own trends on Twitter today, and it was because of your tweet, I believe, that well, her first name was trending on Twitter earlier today.
Yeah, I mean, she really extra irritates me. Like, you know how a lot of the kind of sellout politicians. She's Indian. Her parents are Sikh and Punjabi, and we all know why she quote unquote changed her name to Nikki, or goes by the name Nikki instead of Nimarata, because
it's like, how can she just sit there and say that when she said she experienced, like she said, we were never a racist country.
And then I experienced racism when I was young.
But not even that, just to say we were never a racist country when we had freaking slavery.
Yeah.
I
mean, like I said, she's such a ridiculous person. Oh, and then the amount of times she tweets Israel is way more. Oh, Candace Owens actually had did a nice comeback against her. I don't know what her agenda is, but she was like, "Are you running for the president of Israel?" Recently, Candace Owens has been funny.
She has been kind of funny, and like, I think actually she's gone against like the the Charlie and the people her.
She's gone against. Okay. So basically, she like dared Ben Shapiro to fire her, but obviously they won't, because her show's rated much higher than no one listen to whiny voice Ben Shapiro, and she knows that. So she's been trolling him and having fun with it, and so that's why she's like less censored and having and so that makes her naturally more funny these days.
Well, plus it's the right wing.
I love right wing feuds.
Yeah, they're using identity politics just as much as
it's funny.
The liberals use it. So
exactly, there are liberals basically, just with different vocabularies.
Yeah, it's so funny because like that, just more and more coming to light how much it's liberalism. Like they're all bitching about liberalism, but they are all involved in liberalism. It's crazy.
IPAC is going insane because they're losing the narrative. They've always lost the narrative. It's just that they were able to keep the facade of consent. Like everyone was alone in their house thinking IPAC was full of shit, but people weren't together showing now they can't manufacture that mass. People are not alienated. Everyone together knows that IPAC is full of shit. So what IPAC says doesn't. People are not afraid of IPAC's personal attacks. How much they'll spend on politics on each campaign to get them discredited, whatever.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's because it's the same trick over and over, and it seems like our communal memory is better these days.
Yeah, I was just saying, because I was thinking about this the other night. Like, okay, I remember working on the Yemen project when we were trying to get MSM to just do one story on Yemen back in 2018, or it could have been 2019 or something. So we were just trying. That's all we were doing.
Well, I remember working with you on the tweet storm. Was that the same
we were doing the tweet storms. We were doing all that. We were like we were in there like getting that, and we had some journalists from Yemen, and they were sending us photographs. They were hard to look at, but I knew, like, I felt like, okay, I'm gonna witness this. I'm gonna understand this depravity. I'm gonna watch this. But I felt like then I was trying to wonder why since October has the Palestine thing seems so, but I think I want to say it's the videos, and it's not even the videos of the dead children, like any of the dead. It's the emotions of the people who are still living.
Yeah, and
cries for help. That's the thing that's
the one thing. And then it's the depravity of the Israeli side. They're brazenly filming and celebrating the destruction of schools and dead hospitals.
Yeah.
And they're literally dancing on graves. And I think that brazenness contrasted with these pleas of help.
Yeah. Oh, did you just freeze? Okay. No, you were done. Yeah, like you're dancing on graves, and then now they come out, like 6 cemeteries were like desecrated, and that's just like, for me, like I say, like, you know, in the past because for my own present, like, oh, what a dead body, but like it's culture, it's like it's all part of a genocide. To desecrate cemeteries is genocidal.
I mean, they've always done that. What they do is they would like desecrate cemeteries and build olive trees and be like, oh, we're gonna now 10 years later, we're gonna cut down these olive trees to build like a new settlement for Jewish people. So it's always done that, but it hasn't been this brazen or open.
Yeah, and I think that's what it is. It's out there, and I mean, they always showed it. Like, there was video, you would see a video from the Israeli IDF or something like that here and there. But they're showing their war crimes like crazy since October 7th. Like,
I mean, soldiers are like tweeting out, literally dancing on graves. Do you remember the hospital propaganda video with the Hamas calendar?
Oh yeah. You're pointing to Monday, sir. Like, I don't like how. Even like a citizen that is not, like, I don't understand how someone that is like, you know, not a Zionist would even be supporting this. So,
well, I mean, there are the Christian nutbag Zionists. I understand why they're supporting it. And they'll probably be supporting it much longer than people living in Israel, even.
Yeah. What? Penamillo said, a guy in a dinosaur suit, and now I don't know what that.
Okay, let me find that clip then. No one else is a human to Zionists. Like, literally, you and I are not human to them.
Nope. They don't value anybody else, really. It's sickening. So I don't know. There's just it's been crazy, and like granted, Ukraine's been in the background, but then that was another thing. Like, remember back in November, they were saying, oh, well, you know, all the military people were like, they're not going to be able to go beyond.
Oh, but if you look at the screenshot in Ukraine leaks, they talk about how there's the agency of death, and one of them involves the U.S. embassy and how they're smuggling all these mercs to Ukraine. So they'll be able to so that's why Ukraine kind of eased up on the drafts, because there was a lot of protests, but instead of the drafts, they're going to be sending thousands of
yeah, so they're
and
paying.
these mercs are going to be coming back and doing lone wolf and turning, and these are going to be psychotic Nazis that are coming back to your country, and they will be shooting schools, and God knows what else they'll be doing when they come back.
Yep.
They will be like the guy in New Zealand, the New Zealand shooter, Christchurch.
Yep.
He actually was propagandized by Azov. So
right.
that's exactly the crap they will be doing when they come back.
Didn't he go to Ukraine?
Yeah, he did, but he never fought.
Oh, okay. All right. Okay. So yeah. So do you have anything else to say? Do you want me to play the video? Or?
Oh, it's just that well, President Zelensky had a funny video today. Next week I will try to juxtapose President Zelensky with comedian Zelensky. He's a good comedian. I will say that he is one of the funniest comedians in the world.
Yeah, he's funny.
He's very funny. He's probably I think he should be hosting SNL. SNL's comedians are not funny. Have they ever been funny? Because
I mean, there was funny things, but you know what? Like when you look back on it too, it's really hard because it's like, okay, why were we laughing at that in the 80s? Like it was more absurdity when they first started. It was, it was just absurdity. I liked Eddie Murphy and stuff like that. Like,
was Eddie Murphy on SNL? I did not know that.
The first part of the SNL, yes. So like, Radner and who else did you have? Like, I mean, just the old timers. I mean, they would not play well out today because
they were
the whole, no one really likes to hear the, that. Yeah, you kind of cringe when you look back at some of the stuff. Is what I'm saying.
Because as long as I remember, they seem very unfunny. Like there's nothing risque, nothing. Yeah, it's not. There's nothing.
No, they base it off of just being slightly absurd or something.
Okay, Zelensky actually did cross the line for the Ukrainian state and actually had wonderful critiques of the entire Ukraine state when he was a comedian.
Yeah, he went off. He did a whole bit on that.
A lot of like there was a thing where he pretended to be the new Ukrainian police, and he got the job. He was like really drunk all the time, but he got the job because his uncle was the chief of police. And then they do all these really funny comical things, and then they end up blowing up the cars. And then they're like, "Oh well, America's going to replace it." So he did a really good Poroshenko impression. He also did a very good Igor Kolomoisky impression, and yes, then he became exactly what he joked about. So his comedy was actually crossing the line, and that's why people voted for him, because they thought his comedy, which really crossed the line for the Ukrainian state, was going to carry over into his presidency.
Yeah. So, all right. So this video is 26 minutes long.
And of course, I'll be back. I'll probably have some lemon water, which is water where I squeeze a little bit of lemon into it.
And so this is 26 minutes long. It's you guys have to read the
and I hope I made the subtitles good. Feel free to ask questions. We'll answer them at the end.
Yes. Okay. So I'm going to add that to the screen. Take us off.
Спасибо большое для интервью. Как дела сегодня?
Нормально. Сегодня твои коллеги, тележурналисты, меня уже сегодня пытали, мучили.
Да. И раньше вы были агент СПУ, и сейчас вы сделали очень много журналистики для Ukraine Leaks, да?
Да, это так. Раньше был оперативным работником СБУ, оперативным офицером.
И сейчас как вы посмотрите на эти источники, потому что я думаю, что у вас нет связи с украинской агенцией. Как вы открыли новые темы?
Во-первых, у меня осталось очень много документов со времени, когда я работал на Украине. Это десятки тысяч документов. И они во многом как раз о военных преступлениях Киева. А во-вторых, сейчас, когда я начал заниматься журналистскими расследованиями, очень много людей стало мне писать и обращаться ко мне, предлагая темы для расследований, предлагая помощь, высылая материалы. Это тоже правда.
Да, и у нас очень много, чтобы общаться, но сегодня мы говорим о атомной электростанции в Запорожье, да?
Да, давайте.
Okay. Я посмотрела ваше видео об этом, и первый это что такое Westinghouse и какова его цели относиться с атомной станцией Украины?
Westinghouse – это крупная энергетическая корпорация. Раньше это была чисто американская компания. Потом ее собственником стала компания Toshiba, японская. В 2017 году, после процедуры банкротства, Westinghouse купил целое собрание, скажем так, инвесторов. И сейчас это реально международная энергетическая компания. Westinghouse – это один из лидеров мировых по поставке топлива для ядерных станций. Они делают топливные сборки, так называемые, которые загружаются в активную зону реактора. Понятно?
Да, и вы говорили, они попробовали устроить атомную станцию в Китае и США, и это не успешно. Что происходило?
Дело в том, что в начале 2000-х годов Westinghouse разработал новый проект реактора нового типа. Назывался он AP-1000, который сразу объявили, что это реактор 21 века, за ним будущее всей атомной энергетики. Westinghouse получил, скажем, заключил договор с Китаем на постройку 4 атомных блоков в Китае и получил право на постройку 4 таких же блоков на территории США. Но как оказалось, на бумаге этот реактор очень хороший, а при воплощении в жизни оказалось, что не такой уж он и хороший. В итоге в Китае все-таки они смогли достроить эти атомные блоки, только срок строительства был увеличен почти в 2 раза. А на территории Соединенных Штатов так ни один энергоблок они не запустили, не достроили. И это в конечном итоге нанесло серьезный удар финансовый по корпорации Westinghouse и в том числе привело к банкротству. В общем, не все у них хорошо со строительством атомных электростанций.
И вы говорили о нескольких заводах, которые Westinghouse заключила контракт на строительство в Чехии и Болгарии, но они не были достроены. Почему?
То же самое, они выиграли тендеры на строительство атомных электростанций в Чехии и Болгарии, но это уже было после 2010 года, когда страны увидели, что Westinghouse, за красивой обложкой Westinghouse скрывается недостаточный уровень компетенции для строительства атомных электростанций. Яркий пример – это история с Филиппинами, когда в конце 70-х Соединенные Штаты хотели построить там атомную электростанцию, заплатили колоссальную сумму, несколько десятков миллионов долларов взятки президенту Филиппин, но электростанцию в итоге так и не построили, хотя филиппинскому народу и государству пришлось брать кредиты, по-моему, больше $1 миллиарда на строительство электростанций. А станцию Вестингаус так и не построил. И до 2017 года Филиппины расплачивались по этому кредиту. Поэтому, я думаю, многие страны, в том числе и Чехия, и Болгария, они уже прекрасно понимают, что связываться с Вестингаузом – это плохая идея.
Это почти 40 лет, что государство Филиппин заплатили в атомные станции, которые не получаются, да?
Которые не получили, да. То есть они выплачивали за кредит, который получили на строительство станции, которую так и не построили.
There is perhaps no greater example of the burden of debt than one notorious project in the Philippines. It sits on Bataan Peninsula and is potentially as dangerous as Chernobyl. Built less than 60 miles from the city of Manila on 3 earthquake faults near 2 live volcanoes, one of which recently erupted, this is the Bataan Nuclear Power Station. In the Philippines, it's known as the Big Scam. The scam almost certainly began here at the Wak Wak Golf Club in Manila, where Ferdinand Marcos used to play with his cousin and chief crony, Herminio Dacini. In 1974, the American company General Electric applied to build the Bataan Nuclear Power Station, but Dacini urged his pal Marcos to accept the highest bidder, the Westinghouse Company. Moreover, the deal would be underwritten by the American government through the Export-Import Bank and a clutch of private American banks. Everybody would make a buck, except the Filipino people. By 1977, President Carter had stopped the building of nuclear power plants because of their inefficiency and faulty design. But he did nothing to stop the same plants being built in third world countries like the Philippines. Moreover, the State Department, which had to approve Westinghouse's export license, knew the Bataan Power Station was to be built in an earthquake zone, but still it was encouraged to go ahead.
To make the story even more dubious, the U.S. government enters in. William Casey, later the director of the CIA, then head of the Export-Import Bank, an agency which helps U.S. businesses overseas by providing loans and loan guarantees. Casey goes to Manila. Casey comes back, recommends that the U.S. government, through this Export-Import Bank, give an initial loan. That opens the gate for all these other banks to come in and give loans, and they start building. Westinghouse at this time does the usual thing. You have delays, you have problems. The price goes up and up and up. First to 1.1 billion, finally to 2.2 billion. Some estimate that the final cost of the Philippines will be $2.6 billion. So you have a $2.6 billion fiasco that will never produce 1 watt of electricity, which now the Filipino people have to repay.
When Marcos was overthrown in 1986, President Aquino declared the Bataan Power Station unsafe, and it was closed forever. At the same time, her government began legal action in the United States against Westinghouse. Last year, the American judge found ample evidence of bribery. On the day before the case was due to be heard in March, it was settled out of court. Westinghouse agreed to pay the Philippines $100 million. But remarkably, the Aquino government agreed to give Westinghouse $400 million just to make the power station work, regardless of its position in an earthquake zone.
Вы упомнили, что существует раскол между политическим блоком в Киеве и военным блоком в отношении электростанции Запорожья. Пожалуйста, объясните более подробно, что такое и какого цели каждый блок, у каждого блока.
Ну, смотрите, военные преследуют цель чисто военной. Они считают, что если бы у них получилось вот наступление на юге в Запорожской области, то российские войска бы принялись отступать, и для того, чтобы ослабить русскую оборону в Запорожской области, Хорошо бы там устроить на атомной станции какую-то провокацию, подрыв, теракт, чтобы подорвать моральный дух российской армии, чтобы нарушить логистику и снабжение, ну и чтобы вообще вызвать панику. Вот это преследуют военные украинские. Политики украинские. Надо понимать, что политики украинские — это очень коррумпированная сфера деятельности, и все они завязаны на западных своих покровителей. А западные покровители, в том числе и транснациональные корпорации типа Вестингауза, они заинтересованы в первую очередь в получении прибыли, чтобы зарабатывать деньги. И поэтому они любой ценой хотят вернуть атомную станцию под свой контроль. Потому что Запорожская атомная станция — это крупнейшая станция в Европе, и Вестингаус зарабатывает сотни миллионов и миллиарды долларов. Поэтому, конечно, политическое крыло Киева, которое кормится с подачи Вестингауза, они делают все, чтобы попытаться вернуть станцию под свой контроль.
И это возможно, второй вопрос, это я слишком много читала в международных СМИ, появилась информация о том, что Россия планирует атаковать атомную станцию в Запорожье. Какова цель этой пропаганды?
Ну, опять же, первая задача — это показать в глазах сообщества мирового Россию как такого монстра, который готов идти на все, даже на ядерную провокацию. Но любой здравомыслящий человек должен понимать, что как Россия может устраивать какой-то теракт или диверсию на атомной станции, если там находится персонал российский, охрана станции — это российские бойцы Национальной гвардии, там находятся жители города Энергодара, которые уже граждане Российской Федерации. Но это бред. Это как бы Россия, то есть в их глазах, это такое чудовище, которое готово уничтожать своих граждан. Но любой здравомыслящий человек подумает, что это вообще... Тем более станция как бы под нашим контролем. Так или иначе, она будет работать в интересах России, в интересах граждан России. Она будет поставлять электроэнергию для южных регионов, для Крыма. Смысл Российской Федерации устраивать там какую-то провокацию? Вообще никакого. Поэтому украинская сторона пытается перебить эту логическую цепочку своими утверждениями, что Россия просто это Мордор такой страшный, это воплощение зла, что оно готово на все, даже на убийство своих граждан, заразить свою же территорию. Это первое, просто создать такой негативный имидж России в глазах всего мира. А второе, это любой ценой накачивать ситуацию вокруг атомной станции, чтобы на Россию оказывалось давление, и чтобы эту станцию, например, взяла под контроль МАГАТЭ.
Что такое МАГАТЭ?
МАГАТЭ — это Международное агентство по контролю за атомной энергетикой. Господин Росси, директор МАГАТЭ.
И как это работает?
Это при ООН организация, которая, в принципе, осуществляет мониторинг и контроль за всеми ядерной энергетикой, за ядерными исследованиями, разработками. Это достаточно весомая организация, но она сейчас полностью находится под контролем Запада. Если МАГАТЭ возьмет под контроль Запорожскую атомную станцию, это все равно будет, что под контроль ее взяла Соединенные Штаты Америки.
И потом Westinghouse может продолжать сделать его ядерный...
зарабатывать деньги на атомной энергии, да.
И вы сказали, что единственная страна, которая спасла корпорацию Westinghouse от банкротства, это Украина. Почему? В чем уникальность Украины?
Единственное, это, наверное, громко, но Украина как проект во многом поспособствовала тому, что корпорация Westinghouse удержалась на плаву. Почему это произошло? Westinghouse с 2014 года активнейшим образом проник на рынок атомной энергетики Украины и вытеснил, с помощью киевских коррумпированных властей, вытеснил с рынка поставок ядерного топлива российскую корпорацию ТВЭЛ. Заменив, соответственно, топливо на атомных блоках украинских АЭС, заменив своим топливом. При этом топливо Вестингаус в 2 раза дороже, чем российское топливо. И, естественно, Вестингаус, представьте, 4 атомных станции на Украине, 16 блоков. Вестингаус зарабатывает только на поставках своего топлива сотни миллионов, миллиарды долларов.
Каждый год это...
На тот момент... Смотрите, для загрузки одного блока нужно 42 топливных сборки. 42.
Да, 42.
В 2021 году стоимость загрузки 42 топливных сборок от компании Westinghouse было где-то 280 миллионов долларов. Российская будет 160 миллионов, то есть практически в 2 раза меньше. И вот это только для одного реактора. А таких на Украине вы сами знаете сколько. И, естественно, в 2 раза дороже топливо американское, чем топливо российское. Но Украина пошла по этому пути, и, соответственно, Вестингаус на этом заработал колоссальные деньги. И это во многом спасло его от процедуры такого жесткого банкротства.
Окей, сейчас я понимаю. И это деньги, как они получают деньги? Из-за Всемирного банка или Международный валютный фонд? Это кредит?
Это деньги, которые украинское правительство повышает тариф на электричество для своего населения. И народ Украины платит фактически Вестингаузу. Понимаешь, Эш?
Да, понимаю.
С 2014 года, после Майдана, тарифы на электричество, стоимость электроэнергии для населения на Украине выросла в десятки раз. Да. Ну, раньше, если там было это 2 гривны, то сейчас это там 200 гривен. Даже вот.
Да. Хорошо. И
рост тарифов просто колоссальный. И во многом это потому, что вместо дешевого российского топлива сейчас используют дорогое американское.
Почему российское топливо это дешевле, чем американское топливо?
Потому что у России есть свой уран, у России отработанные механизмы производства топлива лучше, чем у Вестингауза. Вестингаус покупает уран для производства своих сборок, в том числе в России покупает, во Франции покупает, но своей добычи нет. Ну и плюс Вестингаус, он контролирует 30% мировых поставок топливных сборок, он может себе позволить держать высокую цену на топливо. Особенно, когда власти в Киеве готовы покупать дорогое топливо от американцев, а не покупать дешевое топливо от России.
Это очень интересно.
Упирается в коррупцию в Киеве. То есть за словами о том, что мы хотим быть независимыми от России, в том числе при поставках топлива для атомных электростанций, на самом деле киевская власть просто лоббирует интересы американской корпорации, естественно, за деньги. Деньги, Эша, все деньги. Корпорация Вестингаус лоббирует свои интересы, подкупая киевскую власть. Причем для такого лоббирования привлекают зачастую и высших должностных лиц Соединенных Штатов Америки. И когда, например, Хиллари Клинтон приезжала, например, в Чехию и активно даже выступала там на конференциях, где открыто говорила, что да, мы призываем вас отказаться от российского топлива в пользу топлива Вестингаус. Хиллари Клинтон, глава Госдепа США. Это такая вот, это тоже было. На Украине то же самое. Высшие чиновники американские лоббировали интересы Вестингауза, оказывая давление или прямо подкупая киевских.
We are not shy about pressing the case for Westinghouse to expand the Temelín nuclear power plant because we believe that company offers the best option for the project in terms of technology and safety. It would clearly enhance Czech energy security and further the nuclear cooperation between our two countries, and it would create jobs and economic opportunity for Czechs and Americans. We are not shy about pressing the case for Westinghouse to expand the Temelín nuclear power plant because we believe that company offers the best option for the project in terms of technology and safety. It would clearly enhance Czech energy security and further the nuclear cooperation between our two countries, and it would create jobs and economic opportunity for Czechs and Americans.
Да, и вы сказали в вашем видео, что они подписали договор, может быть, 2 недели или 3 недели после Майдана. Это было очень быстро.
Более того, сначала, если речь шла о том, чтобы просто частично заместить российское топливо, то уже буквально через пару лет речь шла о том, чтобы полностью Вестингаус осуществлял 100% поставки ядерного топлива на все электростанции Украины. Вы понимаете, кроме того, что это колоссальные деньги, Вестингаус зарабатывает колоссальные деньги, это еще один из способов контроля за государством. Ведь если в твоих руках поставки топлива для атомной энергетики, значит ты контролируешь всю атомную энергетику страны. А сейчас на Украине атомная энергетика, это, я думаю, единственное, что осталось более-менее живое в энергетическом секторе. Кто ее контролирует, тот фактически управляет страной.
Да, конечно. И поэтому Хиллари Клинтон очень много раз говорила о энергетической безопасности. И это значит, что они хотят все страны оставить купить нефть и топливо из России, и потом начинать купить из США и свои, я не знаю, своих сотрудники.
Энергетическая безопасность – это когда страна отказывается от топлива от России и начинает покупать топливо от США и попадает в полную зависимость от США. Вот это в их понимании энергетическая безопасность.
Да, поэтому, да, и я читала очень много документов об этом, и да, это на Wikileaks они сказали, это был план до оранжевой революции с Ющенко.
Да, это первые попытки были, когда пришел к власти Ющенко, да, оранжевая революция. В 2006 году были первый раз компания Вестингаус пробовала внедрить свое топливо на южноукраинскую атомную станцию, это в Николаевской области Украины, на юге. Но там произошло ЧП, топливо это не подошло к реакторам советского типа, и энергоблок пришлось аварийно останавливать, извлекать аварийно эти топливные сборки. В общем, попытка была неудачная, и чудом не случилась серьезная катастрофа. Да, это правда было.
Да, и вы в вашем видео вы уже сказали о катастрофе в острове 3 Майл. Что происходило в этот остров?
Ну, 3 Майл Айленд – это американская атомная станция. Катастрофа произошла в 1979 году. Это аналог катастрофы, которая потом случилась в Чернобыле, только единственное, что не произошло такого разрушения внешней конструкции, и выброс радиоактивного материала, он затронул только, грубо говоря, внутренние территории электростанции. То есть выброса наружу на природу не случилось. Но после этого, кстати, Соединенная комиссия по контролю за атомной энергетикой США запретила строительство новых энергоблоков на территории США и запретила ввод в эксплуатацию тех, которые уже строились. И на практически 25 лет на территории США не строилась ни одной новой электростанции.
Поэтому Westinghouse нужно строить новые станции в других стран мира.
Hello. Let me put my earset on. So, yeah, it's 6 a.m. now.
Wow. But I'm sorry. I mean, my medicine.
It's fine. I don't mind. It actually gets easier as each week goes along.
Yeah, to be up all night.
Yeah.
What do you end up doing? Do you end up sleeping for a little bit after? Or?
I sleep for the whole day after. And here, if I just sleep till 4 p.m., now it's about 5 p.m. It seems like you speak Russian fluently. I feel like I speak Russian very well, but I have a limited vocabulary in that I can speak much more about the IMF structural adjustments more than I can speak about, I don't know, what I had for dinner.
Yes, totally understandable. But like, so he's going through, and you actually asked the question. I wrote it down. I was like, why is American plants more expensive? Like American more expensive than Russia? And then and you asked that question right after I wrote it down. So, yeah, and it seems ridiculous to push U.S. fuel since they're half the world away. Like,
and since they're also not capable of actually providing nuclear energy for Soviet or any kind of reactor, from what he said, China had to step in with their own technology after 8 years or something.
Yeah. And the whole fact of like, them during the war, them wanting to push the fact that Russia was gonna like do this thing, and they like set off a Chernobyl, like, yeah, they'd kill their own people. Like, what? If they really just wanted to do that, wouldn't it have been easier for them to just
bomb use their nuclear weapons and bomb some place?
Yeah. Instead of like this dark plan of going into a nuclear plant and making it do this and flagging, like, that's not happening. So. Yeah, that was interesting. I didn't because Esha actually edited all that. Normally I do most of the editing, but because it was not in a language I know, she had to do all the transcriptions. So, or I keep saying transcriptions. Is that right? What am I
Translations.
saying?
Transcriptions is when it's from Russian to Russian. Like I type what he says out. That's transcription.
I know.
Translation is when you change it to another language.
My best friend was a court reporter. I know exactly what transcription is, and I just keep saying that word. I don't know.
Yes.
But like I was, some of the notes I wrote, like you had brought that up, that they built it on the earthquake faults.
Mm-hmm.
Like, hello. So I kind of missed because I think I was writing something or I was looking at something. And so did the U.S. push this and promise that they were going to have nuclear plants, or like I didn't catch that whole thing with.
Okay, so so Ukraine already had 16 nuclear plants built by the Soviet Union.
Mm-hmm.
They wanted energy security, Hillary Clinton's favorite word, absolutely favorite word. That's what she meant when she pushed fracking in over 40 countries, is that not Russia has lots and lots of natural gas. No one needs to frack anything.
Mm-hmm.
That's why she accused Greenpeace of being Putin operatives. I don't know if you remember that.
Yeah, I do.
Okay. Because, so in my opinion, if Russia does not need to frack and poison their water, as long as like water doesn't catch on fire from Russia's operation, why is the U.S. fracking? So but so that was one part, is having everyone buy fracked natural gas. Um, can you show up Cobra's commander's theory? I'll get to it later. Okay. And so, and then the second part was getting all these countries to buy Westinghouse's nuclear fuel cells, which don't fit. So it's kind of like, imagine you have this is a bad analogy, but imagine you have a D battery, but the US only sells A batteries, and you want to pay more money for A batteries for a D battery whole. That's kind of stupid. And it's also because, like, the uranium, Russia is cheaper because they can get all the uranium in Russia. And the U.S. needs to buy it from all these other countries, so they can't. So basically, what happens is that you have to, like, smash one type of uranium into another to create a chain reaction, which then provides heat and whatever electricity. And so the thing that they smash is not the right thing, and it's less pure, and it's less good, so on and so forth. But I guess their idea was to kind of bankrupt Russia, sanction it off, like kind of starve it the way it's kind of like they have had this general plan Ost 2.0 for a while, of what they wanted to do to Russia.
Yeah. So this was all just a bigger part of the anti-USSR. Well, not even anti-Russia, I should say.
Now I have reasonable suspicion that the Vladimir Ilyich Ulyanov Lenin nuclear power plant Chernobyl was sabotaged by, wait for it, Ukrainian nationalists. I will not elaborate until the CIA brags. That is a very good theory. There's a little bit of there's actually lots of evidence out there for it. But the CIA is unlikely to brag about this. This is gonna, even when China liberates Washington after World War III, it is unlikely that the Langley people will not burn these records before they flee. Yeah. So. Yeah, and the funny thing is that if you look at the way the U.S. handled 3 Mile Island versus Russia or USSR handling Chernobyl, they all got new places to live immediately. There's thousands of things they did, but unfortunately, the U.S. snatched on that propaganda.
Yeah. And then Pilger brings up that I was thinking that because he's bringing up, the cost, and it's rising. It's 2.6, and this is like in the 70s. So I used the 1980 calculator, and 2.6 billion is about $10 billion now.
Oh my God! So the Philippines in the end paid about $10 billion in debt for the next 40 years, which is 2017, right?
Yeah.
Well, for 38 years, but whatever.
Yeah. So it ended up being 10 billion.
Okay.
They had to pay back. So.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
And the weird thing is that, let me just mention this. So the main opposition for Marcos was Cory Aquino's husband, Benigno Aquino, but he got mysteriously assassinated by what I believe was the CIA. And then Cory seemed very malleable. Like she was not as strong as Benigno. You should watch some of Benigno Aquino's speeches. They're amazing. So I've always wondered if I'm pretty sure the CIA I can't think of who else would want to assassinate Benigno Aquino, but I'm pretty sure the CIA assassinated him, and I wonder if that's why they assassinated him.
Yeah. I highly if you tell me that CIA assassinated someone, I'm not even going to ask you for proof, because
it seems very like he was okay. He was forced out of Philippines for about a few years, and then he was allowed back in. The minute he landed, he got out of the plane, and then he walked down the stairs. Boom! There was a shot that killed him.
Right. Okay. Yeah, I remember him being assassinated, but I remember that he was assassinated, but I didn't know the circumstances.
Well, it was on international. Like, it's one of the most filmed assassinations.
Yeah. So then I I wrote the note, independence at high expense, because he was talking about, them trying to become so the government of Ukraine will make their citizens pay out their nose.
Yeah, by impoverishing them, lowering. Oh yeah, so Yanukovych had literally put a raise on pensions and wages in January of 2014. So then allegedly he became unpopular after that enough to be cooed. Do you believe that?
Yeah.
And then in March of 2014, after Maidan, they lowered the wages and pensions. Like, I just cannot, there is no way that was done. Like, there's consent of the Ukrainian people there. Like,
No, not at all. No. And it's the same
So-
thing. Like they'll sit there and they'll say, I like the whole thing. Let's jump back into the taxes and American taxes. Like, yeah, no, we pay taxes, but it has nothing to do with anything. But they want that facade over us so that we believe that we can't have stuff here, on the tax thing. So it kind of like fits in that, like the propaganda we get is totally different. Like, Ukraine, you got to pay more taxes because we're going to get better fuel, because it's going to be Western fuel. It's not going to be this Russian fuel. But like in our country, they convince us we don't need good things.
oh yeah, well, in Ukraine, no one in Ukraine doesn't not want Russian fuel. They want to pay 10 hryvnias for their heat as opposed to 100. They don't want to pay half of their monthly income in heat.
Yeah, and then you just, as a citizen, you have no say anyways.
Yeah, I mean, of course. I mean, that's why the Donetsk region's like, we have our own coal. We have mountains and mountains. Fuck you. And that's why Donetsk and Lugansk were like, no, F you. We can get our own energy. Go away. And that's how the Civil War started, is because they're like, yeah, we're not doing that. We're not going to pay more. Like, we're already poor. We're not paying more in
basically the US will start a war for corporations.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And Biden's like, of course, they wanted to replace. So the coal area in Donetsk now gives them pretty coal. Maybe it's not the cleanest, but that's all they have. And Lugansk. So they wanted to start fracking there, and they're like, and then when you go and ask, do you want your rivers caught on fire? And these people were like, fuck no. They were like big protests. They'll never show you the anti-Maidan protests, which were way bigger than the Maidan like by 100-fold.
Yeah, I can. Let me shut my TV off.
Like, and the thing was that Ukraine was so close to falling apart in 2014 because Kharkiv then looked at Donetsk and Lugansk and Crimea, and they're like, oh, we can form our own country. Okay, we're gonna become the Kharkiv Republic, the People's Republic of Kharkiv. And then Odessa did that. That's when they sent the people to the Union Building and killed a lot of people. So basically, if the U.S. didn't intervene with like with the ATO operations and providing drones, Ukraine would have completely fallen apart, and the Soviet Union would have been recreated back then.
Now they're providing mercs, so
yeah.
So
a complete deindustrialization. Can't wait. America can't wait to subsidize. Exactly what you're right.
So yeah, I mean, it's so. Like, what does it feel like? What is the feeling in Russia, like, just in general? Like, are there like I feel like there's such a desperation in the United States. Is there that feel in Russia? No, right?
I mean, desperate. So it depends on where in Russia. So in the war zones, yes, there is that desperation.
Well, yeah,
but here, not so much.
Yeah. So yeah, like, because you just like, I think like you're missing some of it here because people are getting. It just seems like everything, like everyone's just ramping up here. So
they are. But what's sad is that
they just
can't figure out what to do, what is to be done.
Yeah, they don't, and that's the whole thing. Like,
When there's a book called "What Is to Be Done."
my fear is like it's like people need to swoop in and be like, no, like, because the tendency to go to fascism
Like
is
I said,
easy.
That's what I've already wrote an article about this. Like when you look at Katrina, that's actually um that's actually what happened, is that like white gangs ended up terrorizing their black neighbors and shooting them. Like it was free hunting season upon their black neighbors.
Yeah.
In Katrina. So that's exactly what's going to happen when things get worse, unfortunately. So like I said, I do not see the answer is simple. It's even written in a book. All they have to do is follow it.
They have it's really hard because like I feel, and this is what I keep saying, because you do have a bunch of people, since what's going on with Palestine and stuff. You do have like this sense like that there are the liberals are like, no, we don't like this genocide, but we're going to support Biden. And you're trying to explain it to them like
99% Hitler or 100%. That's a serious tweet, by the way.
Yeah. Oh, exactly. Like, but it's like they just don't. It's so hard. Like, and I say this to people. I say, just let it go. United States, it's been a horrible project. It's been a horrible experiment. It's not working. Like what the system is for the United States is not working.
And the system is working exactly as it's been built. James Madison said the purpose of our state is to protect the minority of landholders against the majority of the landless.
Yeah.
Or
we've had journalists die in other countries, and we won't go to war for them, but we would go to war for corporation.
Oh, I mean, all the wars are for corporations, aren't they?
That's all they are. That's all they've been for 150, 200
for a long time.
Years. Yeah. Have been basically that. I mean, I'm probably even further back than that.
I mean, when you look at what Simon Bolivar had to say and how the U.S. tried to sabotage him, he was like, the North Americans are determined to bring misery to the rest of the world. Yeah. And you'll see that's exactly they've been. Yeah. BlackRock and JP Morgan. Yeah, basically. JP Morgan actually ended up creating the Great. Well, very few people actually know this. He ended up creating the Great Depression. There's a big trial. It starts with the P. I want to say pecorino, but that's a cheese, and not a name of an attorney. The prosecuting attorney. He did the trials, and basically JP Morgan owned the grandpa Morgan owned like all these like fake corporations where he laundered money, and he would sell stocks in these corporations that weren't real corporations, and one day they just kind of burst because they were non-existent. It's not Pecorino, it's not Picard. Can somebody look this up?
What was it? It was, when was the?
It was sometime around 1932 or 1933. Ferdinand is the first name of the prosecuting attorney. It sounds like Pecorino. It's not, because that's clearly a cheese.
Happened in when Washington took on Wall Street.
Yeah, that's the one.
Nearly 80 years ago, JP Morgan, banksters. Today, Republicans have threatened block.
Okay, that's the trial.
Yeah, so we're looking at the guy's name.
Yeah.
Why is it? I don't know if it's here. I hate using my phone.
Pecora.
Pecora? Okay. Yeah, someone's better than me on
Ferdinand
that.
Pecora. Yeah, the attorney's name is Pecora. And yeah, so yeah, a father of the JP Morgan. He was the founder, the original JP Morgan. He also named his son JP Morgan and his grandson JP Morgan.
Yeah, he did. Oh, so yeah, so I don't
But
know.
that's because back then there was A, the Soviet Union, B, during the Great Depression, the Communist Party was very alive. And they were doing a lot of, there was a fear of there was really fearing the communists taking over the US because that just happened.
Yeah.
And so Tsarist Russia is the equivalent of, like, say, Alabama. It was like really conservative. It was literally like Alabama, as in there was a lot of slave owners and everyone else was a slave.
Yeah.
So imagine if there was a big revolution in Alabama, like, so that's what they were fearing. And there were so many protests. Everyone knew what was going on. There were so many working class newspapers and union radio stations, which was then bought up by all the corporations, and they shut it down. So people really, the working class really knew what the hell was going on because of these newspapers, radio stations. These radios could go 10,000 miles, and and back then unions were for real and actually, like, doing stuff. So that kind of forced the people in Washington to be like, okay, wag my finger at you, JP Morgan.
Yeah. They had to make a show at that point. So
it was more than a show, but they had to definitely wag their finger and then sign the Glass-Steagall bill.
Yeah.
So this was the reason for it. So Pecora, I think Pecora was in it for real. He seems like a very honest attorney.
Okay.
And JP Morgan tried to discredit by coming there with a monkey, like, and then he had like a dwarf, like, but that did not work because he was trying to show this was Pecora kept his cool. And then after that, like, Pecora actually, it was interesting when you read the trial transcripts. You can see that he actually went to the shell corporations and like took out like, they were like, you can look at he asked, can I look through the trash? And then they're like, oh, sure. And they had actually not even bothered to shred up their, like, illegal dealings in the trash. Yeah, JP Morgan came to the look it up. Google JP Morgan.
Yeah, I know. I've read some on it before, but not like I haven't like looked into it, but I'll take a deep dive into it, because I mean, I knew of the trial, and when you mentioned the monkey thing too.
Yeah, look it up. And Cobra Commander says, I'm pretty sure that's why we went digital with the radio. No more RF frequency. It's completely privatized now. All communication. Absolutely true.
Yeah. It's every move they make, is to keep us more in line. Like,
exactly.
The only thing they do, and they do it in a way that they're saying that they're making it better for us.
But it's rarely ever better.
Yes. And like I was thinking about the whole TV thing, like Verizon went and knocked out my cable a couple of weeks ago, and then like because they gave it to somebody else and I didn't have it over the new year, and I'm sitting there going, you can't even like get analog TV. Like you couldn't like you couldn't, like, put up rabbit ears and get a TV station.
Exactly. Before you could get at least PBS on analog.
Yeah, because so you literally have to pay to watch any TV. Like before
in the UK, you actually have BBC as free TV, and there's also pay TV for extra, like Sky News and stuff. So
yeah,
in UK and Australia, there are some free channels.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not saying there's not free channels, but it's like you have to have an internet. You have to have...
in the UK, I think you can still get rabbit ears for BBC.
Yeah.
So yeah, you're right. Yeah. So JP Morgan did look okay. It did come in with the monkey. What's crazy too, speaking of the topic, but CRT TV technology has better picture and motion quality than today's digital fixed pixels. Absolutely true.
Yeah.
If a turtle were to watch our, like, turtles have better vision than humans. If they were to watch our digital TV, they'll just like see random dots. It's like, what the fuck are they watching?
Yeah.
But when they watch CRT TV, they'll see the actual things.
Yeah.
Yeah, because now they think humans are just staring at dots for hours on end.
I know, they probably think we're Like, what the hell's going on with them?
Yeah. Why are they staring at
What's
dogs?
wrong with them now?
Yeah.
Oh, to be a turtle and not have to see what's on TV. That would
Yeah.
that'd be wonderful.
Yeah. You'll have better vision. Yeah. And so that's why they did but that trial led to the Glass-Steagall Act. And when there was the Glass-Steagall Act, regardless of how mealy-mouthed it was, there were no crashes until Bill Clinton repealed it. And immediately, boom, we get the biggest crash.
I want to even say there's an old cartoon about Glass-Steagall, and there's the monkey. There's JP and the monkey. I can picture like.
Okay, let me look for it now and see if I can send it.
I don't know. Because it's not like what I knew about the trial was because of Glass-Steagall. So like me learning about Glass-Steagall, but I didn't deep dive into the trial itself.
I read the trial a few years ago when I came with the he's here with the puppet or something like that. Okay, he was with the puppet, but also with the monkey. Anyways, yeah.
Yeah, there was something with I remember that thing.
I tired. It's very interesting to see how much work Pecora put in to catch them red-handed. And in a normal country, they would have been thrown right to jail for that. But in the U.S., they had to pay some fines, like some.
Yeah, and I feel like they feel like they can get away with it, and then the fact that they only had to pay fines, like that didn't set any precedent for keeping them in line, because they didn't want to set any precedent to keep them in line.
Yeah,
that wasn't really the purpose. It was just, like I said, to kind of make a show. I mean.
Because there were entire marches that stopped traffic all over Washington. There was a blockade. The people set up blockades in Washington and a surrounding area. Like politicians couldn't get out. So they really had pitchforks out there.
I had a conversation the other day, totally kind of off topic, but it's just funny because I was saying that the people are the ones that get the things. Like the people pushed it and then we got the things.
Yeah, it's always that way.
And it was like the person was so mad at me because but we didn't get BBB. And I go, no one was in the street for BBB because it's a shit policy.
What is the BBB?
The Build Back Better under Biden.
Oh my God, that's
Biden almost got it. And I'm like,
no,
yeah, the people didn't really care.
Yeah, that was what the heck? I forgot even what it was. Was it like a cheap imitation of Belton Road?
It was I think it was some infrastructure stuff, and some of the
build anything, right?
Yeah. So probably combat that. Like, it was not good policy. Like,
no one wanted.
Maybe listen to the people that are out there looking to actually be able to afford healthcare.
Yeah. Maybe the BBB, no one fucking yeah, you're right. Build Back. I do remember it now. That was part of some election. Was it post-election election propaganda? I can't remember what it was exactly, to be honest.
Yeah.
And then they abandoned it.
Yeah, they abandoned it. And then this person's fighting with me on TikTok saying, why? How can you say that the people got everything, but then when something's bad, you say it was Biden? Biden.
No. In order to get basically safe workplaces, people went to war with the United States government.
Exactly.
West Virginia had guns, and they formed an army, and they were shooting for weeks on end.
Gatling guns. They brought out the first machine guns and used them on their own citizens.
Yeah, and then Harvard people were sent to West Virginia to fight on behalf of their class for school credit.
Yeah.
So, but then these working class MacGyvered their own guns, and then another article I've written was basically Tennessee was using prison labor, and so these workers noticed that they were using these black prison laborers. So each time they they would break into the mine. And then the first time they put the prisoners on a train to go back home because it was not fair. The second time they burnt down the whole mine. And then the third time they ended up bombing the entire mine. And that's when Tennessee stepped in and banned prison labor for the next 100 years.
Yeah.
So everything, like, it's fought, like, until you're ready to go to war with the powers that be, you're not gonna get it, I guess. That's some.
Hold on. Sorry. But that's the whole thing. People are like, well, what's the answer? It's like, I'm on TikTok right now and I can't really tell you the answer.
Yeah, the answer is simple. The answer is very simple. See, like, how do most people get rid of their colonial occupiers? Ho Chi Minh.
We know.
The Viet Cong, Cuba.
But we don't want, and that's the whole thing. Like, until everyone.
So then they'll say we don't want a civil war, and it's like, that's exactly what you're not getting. What you want.
Exactly. Like,
because you don't want to fight hard enough for it.
You live under this. And it's just going to continue to get worse day by day.
Yeah.
Or you do what is necessary.
Exactly. So they exactly, and ultimately, when you get to that, when you tell them what is needed, they'll always say, "But we don't want something with so many deaths," and it's like, that's why you're not getting it, because you don't want it enough. You're not willing to fight hard enough for it. So that's why you'll never get it, and that's why the conversation ends now.
Yeah. Well, you can think of things like, I mean, the government doesn't care about our deaths on things. Like, I mean, how many people die not having health care? How many people die in prison? They don't care about us. They're not civil to us. They are the violence.
Yeah.
They're violent to us.
Exactly. And unfortunately, it's not going to be easy. And you have to, like, and yeah, you're not. And then ultimately, you realize that most of these people don't want it enough. Like, and there's not enough numbers to fight for it. And then that would be foolishness. Like, that's what Lenin meant with left-wing communism and infantile disorder, is when you don't have that number, you can't go to war. You can't go to war without an army, basically.
And that's the whole thing. Like the most important thing right now is the education part. Is
exactly
making sure, like that, like getting on the street, doing that, like keep doing that stuff.
Well, that's because really, to me, protest. Okay, this is the problem. Protests seem right now actually dangerous, because to me it seems like nothing happens other than some people get killed, like that old Cuban. Like that's why I don't even want Americans to protest.
We should all go quiet. We should all go quiet. And plan. And plan.
And then first read.
Yeah, read a lot. And then plan
on paper, because paper can't be hacked or listened in on. And when you're when you plan, turn up a really loud Bollywood music and quietly whisper to your neighbor.
And when they look at you, just smile.
Yeah, saying we're dancing Bollywood dance. We're having a Bollywood dance class.
Because that was all like people like, we'll stop paying our taxes. That was like a thing thrown around, and it's like it doesn't really matter. I go, but if you want to do something, and I go, this might be an interesting experiment. If everyone, because I know I worked in payroll and I understand, like
they'll just they don't need you to pay your taxes. They just can withdraw taxes, like subtract whatever amount of money from your bank account, like that.
Yeah. But what I was saying is, like, if you want to test the waters, because corporations have to file quarterly, right? Mm-hmm. You can all go in and change your W-4 and put your dependents like really high.
Yeah.
Say you have 100 dependents, and so they'll take out the least amount of taxes possible.
Uh-huh.
And then they're gonna sit, but you'd have to like plan for that. And you can change your W-4 later in the year and have it all come out again, but you'd have to kind of like watch it, because I'm not telling you to do the illegal act of not paying your taxes, but if you wanted to test that theory and see if they react, they might question if everybody, like after a quarter and a whole bunch of corporations were giving like half
$10.
Yeah, like not that much money in for all their employees, because they have to file them quarterly.
Maybe, yeah.
I don't know. I for experiment purposes, I'm just
I don't. Yeah,
know
no,
that.
not paying your. Okay, so not paying your taxes. You would be much better off by stopping having like 500. Well, America does not have 500. Sorry, India does. Um, okay, getting like a few hundred million to block a busy highway.
Yeah.
Try that. No, or a seaport. Okay, so pick something
The ports
important.
are really important. Like
Yeah,
the
pick something important that costs profit and block that.
Yeah, so like on our end, like you see like what Italy did, like blocking at the ports and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Like we should be in California, we should be down in New York and Boston. We should be blocking those ports from, especially if we know weapons are leaving out of those ports.
Or something like that. Yeah. So a lot of the protests of the past aren't people walking on, like having signs in streets. That's just what was visible on the photographs. It was like actually logistical blocking.
Sabotage, and they would do work stoppage and stuff like that.
Yeah, like Louisiana dock workers were just like sat there, and it's not easy to replace a docks worker. They're very highly trained, and said, nope, not sending weapons to South Africa or Rhodesia.
Because all they came up was quiet quitting, and so they did their job and just didn't do extra. But no, these people actually in Detroit, they sat down on their job. They just didn't. The whole plant sits down.
Yep,
they did nothing. The machines were, they would stop the machines. They would all sit down and do nothing.
Yeah,
and then get attacked.
Oh yeah, I mean, union people were killed. Like the union leaders was the most dangerous job in the world. They would get shot. The corporations would hire mercenaries and shoot them and kill them, and thousands or millions have died because of that.
Even like the activists. I mean, even especially down south.
The civil rights worker, they were all killed. Yes,
and they would kill because they were communists or something like that. Like there's so many stories out of down south of them.
Yeah, I really
workers just
think people shouldn't use the civil rights movement as an example because it's such an outlier. There are two conditions that will never be replicated. It was after World War II when many African countries were getting decolonized and the US wanted to swoop in and take over the place of French and British corporations. So when you are trying to show African leaders, hey, do business with me, and then it's like, oh, you're racist, that just won't happen. So that was one thing that they necessitate. So about the highway between Delaware and Washington that the U.S. had to desegregate, right?
Yeah.
So basically, there were two Ghanaian diplomats, and this diner basically said they had to sit in a segregated place, and they were so horrified. The video is really funny because they were like, "We were better than the white people there." So then Eisenhower and Nixon personally had to apologize, and then on that highway, every single restaurant on that highway was desegregated, so that no diplomat who traveled between the UN in New York and to whatever place in Washington would face racial, just for the and
they should have done that for everyone.
No, but that's the special condition.
No, I know, but I'm just saying they did it for that. They really could have done it for everyone, and they didn't care enough to do it.
Exactly. But they did it for that. Okay. So they were trying to show African countries, hey, you should allow us to exploit your minerals. And even the most puppetous dictator cannot allow somebody who's like this blatantly racist to exploit their minerals, right?
Yeah.
In their country, they would just get go Marie Antoinette. And so there was a limit. The second thing was that the Soviet Union was around. With the Soviet Union being around, they were basically having petitions in the UN charging the US with genocide. And they used the Nuremberg, there's this prosecutor, Wyszynski. I wish there was an English translation of his journals of how he set up the Nuremberg trials. It's brilliant. It's really funny because he would mention some war crimes and then he'd have to check it with the British, and the British are like, oh, this can't be a war crime because we do it in India.
We get in trouble.
And then he'd return and change it, and then they're like, okay, this can be a war crime. So basically using Dao's principles in the UN, there was a hearing that we charged genocide. And so they didn't want to look like an ass in front of the whole world, like especially with the Soviet Union around, because in Soviet Union they had cartoons called like Mr. Twister, who was like a racist person, and he goes to Leningrad, and then in Leningrad there's no room for race. He gets denied every hotel because in Leningrad there's no room for racists.
Yeah.
And then he decides not, because it's a children's story, at the end he decides not to be racist, and then he's allowed back in the hotel.
Because it's a children's story.
Yeah.
If it was an Esha story, there would be a grimmer ending.
Yeah. No, in this story, he finally understands why he shouldn't be racist, because he learns empathy.
Hey, did you hear the Indonesia is bringing Israel to ICJ too now?
God.
They're bringing on the side of occupation. So they're filing their case is on the occupation, not the genocide.
Yeah, because Indonesia has a bad precedent. They don't want to open up the genocide.
Yeah.
Well, it was basically a lot of Indonesian Chinese were killed for fear of them being communists under the Jakarta method. Like that is basically the Jakarta method. Yeah. So they don't really want to open up that side of the.
Yeah. So they're gonna take it on the
that can of worms.
Yeah. Which they are pretty much familiar with occupation because of the United States, anyways.
And the Dutch.
The Dutch. And the United States.
Yeah. So that's why they're very careful about the line they're treading.
Yeah. No, I see what you're saying. I thought, like, I didn't even think of it that way. I thought of it because they were already, tried by South Africa, so that they were going to go with a different thing. I didn't think of it the way you just said it, so that makes sense.
Oh yeah, look at what what happened in Indonesia with the Jakarta method was basically a Chinese Holocaust.
Yes. Yep.
Yeah, that's why they don't want to open up that can. Oh yeah, that's the first thing I thought about was the Jakarta method and why they wouldn't want to open up that kind of form.
Yeah. No, you're right. I didn't I was just thinking, they're just doing it for a different case, coming at them a different way. But no, you're absolutely right. So, yeah. So I don't know. We have I'm getting the indication that they feel like, Israel feels like they're going to get, charged, but nothing's going to change.
Well, they can get charged, but it's not like there's going to be a prison, or like they're not even going to be able to do what they did with Slobodan Milosevic, and that was pretty shady. But that's another story. And very interesting fact. Of course, the U.S. has always claimed to stand for woke multiculturalism in their propaganda. They love to act like the USA is a special place where racism doesn't exist. I've met with this Black South African man in New York City, and he said this is Trevor Noah has said this too, but this guy traveled all over the U.S. and he said that he actually is more afraid of the cops in the U.S. than he ever was under apartheid.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow. Yeah, it's because they got away with it so long. They got away with it so long. It's so
yeah.
ridiculous. It's it's so bad that it's so annoying to me that I'm sitting here, I'm like, oh, I hate this, and I have to every single time I circle back to the United States, because there's nothing that goes wrong in the world that the United States doesn't do too, and it's
Britain.
Britain. But
Eddie.
Yes, Britain. I can we just say that the UK and Britain are? The UK and US are
the same thing. Yeah.
It just has to be the same thing.
Their every interest is merged. They never do anything separately.
Yeah, it's kind of like the duopoly in the United States.
Yeah, exactly.
Except for they work together a little bit better than the Red Party and the Blue Party.
Yeah, and the UK does a little bit of a better job playing the good cop.
Yes. Yeah. Well, now they do. Yeah.
Now, exactly.
Now they do.
These days they're doing a better job of playing they have decided they will always these days they will play the good cop.
Yeah.
Or they've always compared, like they have a routine that they do with the US, so that
yeah. It's just it's but it's like everything, and so it's like, I know it's so annoying, and I hate when people do it. Like when you bring up something that Biden did and someone says, but Trump did too. Like, it's like, I hate that, but it's like every single time, like someone says something about another country, and like, but don't you understand your country does it?
And
like,
and the US probably put that person in charge.
Exactly. You are right.
Yeah. So
or they're lying and saying, and they're projecting.
Exactly. You know, the worst thing about liberals is where they assume, like, first thing is the Hamas. They're like, oh, this country must be racist because they're only white people. And I'm like, no. If they're like, okay, first of all, there are not. It's most countries are multi-ethnic. There's no just because you think it's white people doesn't mean they don't see it. There are like in Greece, for example, there are so many different ethnicities, so they don't see it as just white people. They see it as like you have like smushed them. That's the first thing. You're kind of being racist here. And the second thing is that it means that these countries did not engage in the transnational slave trade.
Yeah.
So that's why France and UK has a lot of Black people, but Greece does. I mean, Greece has some, but not the same amount because they didn't engage. And then you wonder. Then you have, and then people have to like they make up weird theories about why they had to go around Africa to engage in the transnational slave trade. And the answer is simple: the Ottoman Empire had the best navy, and they would not let the UK and France into the Mediterranean.
No, I mean, it's all like it gets to a point where it's so frustrating.
Yeah, and this is the grossest version of liberal identity politics, where you're like, you have to support France over Argentina because there are more Black people. And it's like, no, I don't.
No.
I support Argentina because it's a third world country and France is a colonizer. And the reason it has more Black people is because they brought over more slaves. This was like last year in the World Cup, a lot of liberals were supporting France over Argentina, when everyone in the third world, everyone in Africa was supporting Argentina over France.
Yeah. No, but because they're familiar, France is, a Western European country, and they're
and they had quite a few
countries they know. They don't even
they had quite a few Black players, but we know why.
Yeah,
slavery.
Like I'm going to tell you guys something. Like, I know the map of Europe, Western Europe, much better than I know where like I really have to think where the countries are in South America.
Oh,
because when I was, in school, you would it was always. They kind of made you think that Africa was one country and South America was one country in a way, like that's how they talked about them.
Well, the way the maps are drawn out, Europe is puffed up and South America is shrunken down from its actual size.
Yeah, totally.
So South America is basically about the same size as North America flipped over.
Yep.
But Europe, but it's also bulges out a little. Well, it bulges out, but also it bulges in on the other side a little bit more.
Yeah.
So, but like I said, Europe is puffed up in these maps, and South America and Africa are kind of shrunken from.
Yep. And but that's how they talked about it. Like when I was growing up, how the rest of the world was talked about was like, in some sense, even like Asia. Like they wouldn't just talk about, like they would lump everyone together. Like it had to be, we don't really want to talk about China in particular. We're going to say all Asians. We can just lump
Yeah.
them together.
Well, that's somehow more politically correct, but it's probably because liberals don't know the difference. Today, I saw Carl Zoss tweet where they said there was this Korean candy, and when you look at the text, it's clearly Chinese. Like you can tell the text between Korean and Chinese, and and it's like clearly Chinese. But liberals don't want to know the difference between Korean, which is not a tonal language, so everything is flat. Chinese, tonal, so everything is not flat. So when you hear it, you can actually hear the difference.
I know what you're talking about. Yeah, I know exactly what you're talking about. George wants you to start your morning vodka shots.
Oh, no, I started my morning coffee shots in my
coffee shots, but you're supposed to go to bed after this, though.
I should. I was trying to drink coffee to stay awake.
Yeah, but you can stop drinking coffee because
good idea.
You got to start going to sleep soon.
Well, luckily for me, I don't. Let me see if I can give you guys a sneak peek. I don't know how I'm going to do this. See, it's still dark. Oh, okay, 6:49. It's still dark, but it'll stay this way till about 9 a.m.
Wow. Yeah. It's cool. I don't know. It's weird. It'd be weird. I don't know. I always had like it. Well, because
your sun doesn't come up till 8 o'clock there now, right?
We get it about 7.
Okay, you get it about 7.
Yeah, in Boston, it's probably Boston's further out, so go further into the country, it might be a little later. But yeah, we probably about 7 to we can start getting dark. We used to. I swear that we got dark earlier, like 3 o'clock before, but it's more like 3:30, 4 o'clock. That's
here it's now about 5 o'clock, but last month it was about 3:30, 4 o'clock.
Yeah. So yeah,
here it seems like each month there's like an exponential difference between the sunrise and sunset. Like, December it was like from 10 to 4, but then like in January and then in February it goes from like 8 to 6, and in March it's somehow from like 6 to 8. Like it's crazy how each month there's like so it's not consistent. Like each month is so different from the last month.
Yeah. And then we still change our time. So
we don't change our times, but then the sun never sets.
Yeah. No, I don't know. So what else is going over there in Russia?
Nothing much. So this is Vasilly's new article about the agency of debt. Is interesting to see where all the mercs are coming from.
Yeah.
And with what people should brace themselves. Sorry for bothering you. Okay, no, go away. This is from Twitch.
Yeah, I see the Twitch sometimes, but yeah. So what was I gonna say?
So
what do you have? What are you working on right now?
Right now, I'm working on the video short form about everything about World War II. So I'm making the storyboard for point 1 and point 2. Nazis aren't socialists, and Hitler was a madman.
Oh yeah.
The Nazis are socialists is so easy. Like I don't know, like. It's the easiest thing to debunk. Look at that.
Yeah. I mean, I was joking too because someone brought something like that up, like this. I go, they weren't really socialists; they were neoliberals, right? So they were
neoliberals.
If they used that in their name, they would have been nannies instead of Nazis. So then I go, you could call them privatizers, and then they would be nappies.
Yeah, basically, they were okay. So. Hitler was sent to infiltrate the Deutsche Arbeiter Party, which was definitely not a workers' party. But then he was so good at infiltrating it that he took it over and changed it to the National Socialist Arbeiters Party. But the people who funded that were Baltic Germans who were really upset about their slaves being gone, not having slaves anymore, and wanting their Lebensraum back. The second biggest funders were industrialists who were really unhappy with the Versailles Treaty, who wanted it gone. and who wanted their coal facilities in the Ruhr Valley back. So so when you look at who funded it, and then when you look at every single policy that the Nazis actually had, there's no way any Hitler's policies sound like Ronald Reagan's on steroids.
Yeah, they're just neoliberal. I mean, that's all they did. They were what neoliberalism became.
Will be.
Yeah, like they were doing that thing. And
Yeah.
Mr. Difficile, if I said the wrong time for EST, I don't leave the house much.
Okay. Oh yeah, and I'm in Russia, Moscow Standard Time for me.
Yeah. So
MST.
I'm not sure what I said. I make things up. No, I swear the last time I looked outside, it was about 4:30, 5 o'clock. When it was.
What's the film Zone of Interest? Okay, I haven't seen the film in a long time.
I know. I haven't really.
I really have. Okay, and the next is on January 24th, 4 days from now. We will do Remembering Lenin.
Yes.
Because I have all the 8 volumes.
It's actually 5 days for us, but 4 days for you.
Oh, okay. Sorry.
So on the 24th, we are doing a show. Do you want to do it at the same time? You want to do it?
We can always. Fine. Let's say sure. Let's say same time.
Same time. Okay. So on the 24th, same time, same place.
So I will pick some interesting stories. My favorite is when he was 8 and he pretended he read a book about the Cherokees, and then he warned his brother to beware of white people because white people are worse than death. And though when he said never to come up, they were dangerous, and that you were awaiting a fate worse than death with the white people.
You're a smart little kid.
I know, and he was only 8 when he said that.
Like that is having some really
good sense.
Good sense about you. So
yeah,
yes. I'm glad he didn't lose that and he grew it.
Yeah. No, to me, it shows you how he I'm sure, I don't know what book he read, but whatever book he read in 1878 would not. It was probably a Russian translation of an English book, and it probably would not be very pro-Cherokee. But he was still he still knew who to sympathize with and who the oppressed were.
I always played. All right. So as kids, I was always the native. If we were playing something like that, I was also always the drug dealer when we played cops and drug dealers.
Good. Okay. I don't think I ever played cops and drug dealers.
That was our own little spin on it.
Okay.
We would take flour and put it in baggies and hide it in the backwoods, and then we'd make my little brother and my neighbor's little sister, who's I'm good friends with now. They would be the cops, and then me and my friend would be the.
Were you good at hiding drugs?
Yeah, we were excellent at hiding drugs. They really, I mean, they were like every other cop. I mean, cops never solve crimes. We'll just say that's how the games went.
Exactly.
All right. So do you want to get some sleep, or do you want to?
Yeah, I do. So come for this. I don't know where to point that thing. We'll remember him.
Yes.
And
I'll put some promos. I'll push that one.
And this is him towards the end of it. Look at how much he aged with little gray hair. Poor thing. I think having to deal with the World War and then having 14 countries invade you at the same time would
What was his age when he
died at 54?
54. I knew it was in the 50s. All right.
Yeah, he died so young. And what's really irritating is Kerensky lived till the age of 90. He died in 1970.
The good die young. Kissinger lived till 100. Yeah. I'll be 54 this year, so.
Yeah, so but I can tell the stress really got to him.
Well, he had a chronic illness too, so stress it doesn't help at all.
Okay. This is so cute. Lenin is helping this second child, illegally crossed through to Finland when he was like kicked out of Russia in 1907.
Aw.
I did not. It's so cute. I did not know that.
Oh. Well, you're going to have
Yes.
some good reading to prepare for the 24th.
Oh yeah.
And
Yeah.
you happy.
Okay. This is so cute. Yeah. So he actually really wanted children, but his wife couldn't have any. So he was really happy whenever a child visited their illegal headquarters.
Oh, yes. Yes. He also liked cats.
He loved cats and dogs. He had a dog named Zhenka in Siberia.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
I like dogs and cats. I like both. So,
yeah. He was good. He was kind to, he was mean to Kautsky, nice to animals and children.
So he was right on the right path. I mean,
yeah,
that's exactly how everyone should be.
Yeah. Mean to liberal social democrats like AOC.
And nice to all animals and children. Yeah.
Exactly.
All right. So
okay. Bye-bye. We'll see you on January 24th for a special broadcast.
Bye.